Welcome back to another episode of Net Talk. I'm Alex.
I'm Mitch.
This is our big episode for the week. We've got lots to cover before the MAVSL semi-finals.
And grand finals.
This
all
is
the
a
same weekend.
action-packed week. It really comes around quick with such a short season, such a short format.
Yeah.
Every game feels like it doesn't really last that long.
It's
but
only been 7 weeks.
yeah, well, six rounds and then finals. So-
Yeah, but there was a bye round.
Oh, the break, the long weekend
Yeah,
break where
yeah.
we had that Pakenham tourney. If you haven't watched or listened to the last week's episode,
What are you doing? Go and watch
what are
it.
you doing? Go watch it. Come
Yeah,
on.
go and watch it. Come on.
So lots of volleyball going on.
But still just us two losers talking about volleyball all the time. But no, let's... I'm excited to hear what your slay and shame for this week
I've
is.
got it written
I'm
down.
looking
I've
at
got
the
one of them
note.
written down.
I'm really curious as to what on earth this could be.
I'm going to start with the slay
Okay, yeah, go.
because the shame is written down, but the slay.
Wait. Should we both do slays
Yeah.
and then both do shames?
Sure.
Or do you want to do slay and shame and then I'll do slay and shame?
Nah, we can both do slays. So start positive and negative. That's what I like to do.
All right, sure.
My slay is my girlfriend Laura, her family, just got a little puppy,
okay,
a little
yeah.
border collie,
Yeah.
black and white border collie to go with their
Surely
orangey.
we throw up a picture of Millie.
Yeah, Millie, a video.
A video.
Here is a 30-minute uncut video of Millie from airport to home to anywhere else.
This episode's actually going to be 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, and the first 45 minutes is Millie videos and photos.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot.
It'll be a
There's-
full collage.
There's a lot already on a lot of camera rolls.
I'll do music.
Yeah.
We'll make a documentary about
Emotional.
Millie. Yeah.
Millie coming home,
Yeah.
finding her home for the first time. But so she hasn't met the other dog yet. Percy, their current dog, who's 2 or 3, an orange border collie.
Yeah.
Just keeping him separate till vaccinations and whatnot.
Yeah.
Let them get their own space. But she's a little cutie. Was nervous from the airport.
Oh, really?
And then settled into the house in about half an hour.
And then kept you up
Was
all night.
a bit of a menace. Didn't keep me up. I went to sleep.
Okay, fair enough.
She slept for about 2.5 hours, got woken up for dinner, and then was the most hyper I've ever seen a little puppy.
Border collie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
It's going to be hyper for well, it's going to be hyper, period. Good slay.
Good slay. You
'Cause
got a
that's
slay?
a word.
got a
I couldn't really think of one other than for myself because I have always been an audio guy forever. I've never really been good at visuals and stuff like that. But on the weekend at the MAVSL game, I stepped into videographer's shoes. And I'm giving myself a slay for the footage that I took because it might be really shit. I actually have no idea. But I went through most of the footage late last night and this morning, and I'm pretty chuffed with what came out. Whether I can edit it into an actual video, yet to be seen.
Yeah.
But I think that's a slay.
Yeah, got some good video from a
Otherwise,
one-sided round.
Yeah, very, very one-sided.
I mean, some good moments from both sides, but could kind of see the outcome coming.
Yeah. So slay for me for giving the old eye test to go on through the camera lens. I'm just gonna wing it and see how we go.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if the result of by the time this episode comes out, I don't know if the result of what I've made will come out. It may. I've already done the music for it because
Yeah.
that's easy for me. Like I've been doing that for years. But
Yeah, just bob, bob, bob song.
yeah, that's exactly how it happens.
That's all he does. Is he hums and
Yeah.
AI does it for you.
No. No. So we'll see. So that's my slay. So hopefully if you guys see the result of the video, you guys will either agree or I will get ridiculed on public social media platforms.
On everything's out of focus. Players are like in the top right of the frame. You're just like filming their feet for a bit.
I'm going to throw Laura under the bus a little bit and say that some of her footage most of it was great. 90% of Laura's footage was great because I gave Laura the camera because the camera's heavy as hell. And I gave her the camera for a little bit. And there was one, I'm gonna play the clip because I'm gonna go find. I labeled it because I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Really good serve comes over. Laura tracks it really well. Pass happens, and then suddenly we're looking at the ref stand, and only the ref stand for the rest of the rally. So I need to.
She got the important bit. You were meant to cut it there.
No,
it was a 1
she
second
tracked
clip.
the ball outside of the frame, and then it was refs, like actual visible. I feel like she may have done like these ones, like looked at the
she
ball.
was done.
No,
Did you see how I used the camera at Uni Nationals? Those are the worst photos anyone will have ever seen.
I'm gonna put. Don't tell Laura. We're going to wait until the episode comes out and I'm going to put Laura's footage over this episode so she can see it firsthand.
We can do that for half an hour. So half an hour of Millie and then half an hour of really bad footage.
No, it was only the one. Everything else, I said, like 95% of what she did was probably better than what I did. But that one video had Kate and I giggling last night. I was like, what was going on here?
Yeah.
Anyways, what's your shame?
My shame is a shame of a little bit of volleyball culture.
Oh,
because I'm shaming it because it always annoys me when it's a thing. And I got a bit fed up at an intercollegiate competition for university students, people that live on residence, do a bit of a social comp where they play each other. So I was essentially organising refs for that.
When was this?
Students earlier the week, last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week.
The like Melbourne Uni colleges.
Yeah,
right.
The Melbourne University colleges play each other. Not shaming that. It's very fun competition. They have a lot of fun, really good. But as like organising refs, organised bringing the balls for those games, brought them the nice new Micassas. I mean, they're nice. Some people like them. I still like the old spirals, but the new ones are good. I'll shame them too. Throw that in.
Yeah, fair enough.
But after the game, one of our balls, match point, I didn't really realise where it rolled down to this little corner of the stadium near a hallway. Went, okay, sweet. Like I feel like I saw it out the corner of my eye, went over because I had to do something with the next game that was happening. I was changing the net height. Then went, oh, wait, can someone go get that ball? They went, oh, what ball? Where did it go?
Yeah.
And then I walk over, see someone, like I'm like, what? And then there's people on the other side of the stadium getting set up and
the ball got nicked, didn't it?
Yeah, so I walked over, stormed over, went, hey, did you happen to pick up a ball? And they're holding a ball. And I went, is it that one? And it wasn't that one that they were holding. That one was blank.
Yeah.
So I went, okay, did one roll over to club ball?
Yeah.
I knew one of them was a club member or something. I was like, can we get that? And then he goes, yeah, oh, we might have one. Okay, can I have it back? Okay. And then it's in the bottom of the ball bag.
Wow. So they tried to hide it. Yeah.
And he's like, it rolled onto our court. I'll give him benefit of the doubt that maybe they were returning it to the club because there wasn't a club session going on.
Yeah.
But I was like, can I have that back?
Don't steal.
But it just bothers me because it is such a thing. We did lose a ball at Uni Nationals.
Yeah. And we also lost a ball at the BBJSC Pakenham tournament.
Yeah.
But I like the amount of times I would be walking around looking for this ball, see someone, I don't know who this person was, no, whatever. But like I'm going to call them out because I went up to they were doing the duty, like the score sheet.
Yeah.
And this was on the other side. And he's like playing with the ball. And I was like, what are the bloody chances this is our ball? I've been looking for like a good, like, because I didn't play this match. I think you just played and Harry played the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around and I'm like, been walking around for like 20, 30 minutes. I see this ball at the corner of my eye. He's like under the table, like playing with it. So I walk all the way over. I was like, hey, is that our ball? He's like, oh, I don't think so. And I was like, look, can I just have a look at the label? I look at it. It's got the Melbourne University bloody writing on it. And I was like, I wasn't like aggressive, but I was just like, brother, what are you doing?
It's a little bit of a cascading effect. People go, oh, I lost my ball, so I'll just fill my ball bag with another ball bag. But if just people
the volleyball culture
spend a couple minutes looking, every now and again, I'll be like, oh my God, we've lost a ball. Someone's hit a ball in warm-up. It's rolled 10 courts. And then it has turned up at the front desk or someone's handed it in.
Yeah. That's rare. I find that's rare though.
It's happened a couple times where I've like walked other courts or at a junior game, a ball rolled onto a show court and after the game, one of the parents was like, I think it went over there and went over and the head ref was holding it. I was like, sweet. Thank you very much. But that's my shame for volleyball is a little bit of
the culture
many
there.
People go, the balls are up for grabs as soon as you take your eyes off of it.
You know where it's really bad though? And like volleyball culture needs to do better. Like schools cup. Yeah. It's awful.
Maybe
I constantly
kids don't understand the weight.
It's not even the kids, it's the other coaches 9 times out of 10. Like I've actually heard coaches say like, let's go and find some stray balls here. And it's like, come on, man. Like, you know how of all people how much they cost.
Yeah. And trying to convince a school to buy you another set.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good shame. I didn't have a shame, in all honesty.
Too positive of a week.
It really wasn't though. Oh, shame. Okay. If I'm going to give a slay to myself, I may as well give the shame to myself as well. I got to even myself out here. My time management is normally a decent enough skill of mine compared to like most people, just because of what I do is all very, very heavy deadline driven, and it's very random deadlines. Like a lot of the deadlines I get are between 36 and 48 hours, which is very, very tight. So normally my time management is really, really good. However, the last week I've not been good. I think I was up until like 11:30 last night doing like 7 revisions for a client because I should have done it during the week, but I was editing our podcast. Oopsie. And
Top priority, of course.
And then this morning, because I left it so late, my client, luckily he's a good friend of mine. I wouldn't normally do this if it was like a very high profile client, which I do have a few of that I have to be very, sometimes I'm up till 4 a.m. doing it because they're from Germany or whatever. But this client messaged me this morning at like 3 a.m. and I was asleep and he was like, oh, I fell asleep. And I was like, oh, thank God, me too.
Phil.
Yeah, but he's from like LA or something. So I was like, oh, thank God. That helps me out a lot.
Nice.
So I managed to get it done at like 8 a.m. this morning and then wrote the music for the highlight reel that I will hopefully release later. So good time management from me. Not really. So that's my shame to myself.
I mean, I have pretty bad time management too. I've had a couple of late nights doing a spreadsheet that we'll
go through
some
today.
Stats that we've had some look in because we'll do some in-depth stuff now that this episode is going to cover largely the fact that MAVSL has wrapped up. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on some teams, how they've been running, who are their players to watch in finals, who are the players that they rely on in finals.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to get to cover because...
Well, this whole episode's going to be all in-depth MAVSL. What are the teams' identities? How do they do what they do? Why are they where they are on the ladder? Let's just kick it off.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of the local scene, what's going on at the moment, I'll throw out.
Oh, yeah, you're going to...
Yeah, just like to promote that, I mean, volleyball in Australia is kind of winding down. Indoor, done.
Pretty much. Literally a week left
Yeah.
and then it's just tournament season.
Yeah, but beach volleyball starting, first round just happened. Melbourne had 2 sunny days and then immediately beach volleyball starts and it's rained non-stop.
Yeah.
So I've had some complaints about the wind.
The first half of the day was okay and then it just poured.
And there was a bit of hefty wind, I think, the whole day.
Well, there was a thunderstorm on Saturday and then the round was on Sunday.
Yeah.
Beach sucks.
Yeah, but then international, it does. It sucks, but it's so good, but it sucks. And that's why it's good.
Yeah. Okay,
just a bit of punishment.
Fair enough.
For whoever's playing. And then the international scene.
Yeah, I posted it.
Yeah.
And this is...
I pulled the strings. We pulled some strings.
Yeah,
We've
this
got
is us.
connections. We started this podcast, you know, people are taking notice.
We complained that you couldn't watch the Plus Liga on anything local and then
That's the
volleyball,
Polish indoor
league.
league. If you didn't catch our rundown of that preseason.
Volleyball World TV actually reached out to us and asked, oh, do you think this is a good idea? We were like,
said,
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's not what happened.
But it is the Plus Liga with now the Italian league are all on VBTV.
So it's in terms of where to spend your money, because I get
best bang for your buck.
It's it's $15 a month, I think, Australia. Oh, it's in USD, so it ends up being like 21, I think. Came out of my bank account the other day. You've got men and women's Polish league, men and women's Italian league, men and women's Big Ten, which is the American College League, and then obviously VNL Pro Beach Tour.
Yeah,
I don't think AVP is not on there.
No,
but that's still on YouTube, so you can just go and watch that. So that is the best bang for your buck. Once MAVSL wraps up, we will be covering probably the Polish league more. We'll flip through both.
Just whatever seems more interesting in the week. Give people catch ups on sort of how teams shape up and who Australian athletes that are overseas. Elsewhere.
We're not going to just full transparency. We're not going to cover the league the same way we do the MAVSL, just because other podcasts do cover those leagues far better than us. But we'll touch on show matches and break down the analytics and do a similar thing to what we're doing for the MAVSL, but for those sort of high ranking, much better competitions.
It is interesting to me that even Volleyball World you're getting it broadcast on your service and you miss the first week of competition.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame. It wasn't announced until the comp is in its second or third
round. Yeah.
And they're going, it's on VBTV.
And it's like, but why didn't you organise this before
For
the
openers,
first round?
the preseason comps, like surely that is what would be people like, I'm watching Plus Liga this year on your service.
Yeah. So it's like annoying. We released that episode, which is going to, I'm not going to take it down. Maybe I should.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah. But like where we said, like where to watch it, go to Polsat and pay money. So for anyone who did, now you can hopefully get a refund, but I don't know if that works or not. I think I also paid for it and now I need to go and cancel it.
Yeah. That's probably ticking up in the background.
One of those things. So I guess that's another shame for Volleyball World TV is like time managed better than me. Like what's going on? Figure it out.
Know your deadlines and get stuff out there.
Your deadline is before the league starts. But getting into this week's major deep dive episode, we're going to start with the MAVSL. We're going to start with players. Players in teams or just players?
We'll look at players in teams. We'll probably look at them team by team,
Yeah.
fourth through first, each team on the men's side and then the women's side.
Yeah.
So you can really see how players have roles in their teams. Looking at it from a statistical perspective, because I've done a little bit of a Google sheet to work out people's per game averages, taking match reports and equalising out sort of a bit of variation, because it's such a short format and a lot of stats have a lot of variation in volleyball. I've largely taken inspiration from basketball because you can do a lot of projection stats. They have a little bit more set of the game is always the same length, but this actually, with all games being a compulsory 5 sets, sort of helps with those projections.
And also like on the converse side of that also maybe doesn't help because players maybe don't play those last 2 sets or also like there's, as we'll touch on later, some players don't play every round. So you have to somehow balance that out with percentages and total attacking statistics, for example, maybe don't give you the best indication of like how that player has performed because maybe one player for one game comes off the bench and does like 2 points and then goes off, but that pulls their average down significantly.
So I've gone back to a little bit of high school math where I probably mostly played games, but
The old cool math games?
I was playing like Minecraft or Call of Duty. We were going top tier. Why just sticking with Flash games?
Well, because
you didn't have games back in your day.
Well, okay. No, we definitely did. We used to play Halo on the school computers. Yeah. That was what we did at our school. Yeah.
And looked at it from like a little bit of a statistical perspective, which I get shaped from Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd runs a podcast which looks at player projections in the NBA and sort of the fantasy side of that.
Yeah.
And I make Laura listen to that in the car way too regularly.
So now you're going to make her listen to us do the same thing.
Because he does a lot of really good look at stats and sort of scarcity in stats, variation. There's actually a lot of parallels between basketball and volleyball. Like sort of your kill percentage is usually pretty consistent as a player.
Yeah.
Your blocks have a lot of variation because some games you'll get 2, some games you get 0, and
some games
you
get
don't
6.
really have much control over that. If you're a good blocker, you're usually slightly better than the others, but there's still a lot of variation game to game.
And depends on the team you play. Like if you play a really, really good team, you'd be really, really chuffed with the fact you got 1 or 2 blocks. But if you're playing a really terrible team, you'd be pretty met about getting 5 or 6 blocks.
So we'll do a lot of refining on this scale and this presenting of information. It is currently as per game averages, which equals out usually based on those players that are playing more frequently and more consistent. There's a couple like edge cases which I'll work on filtering out. I just haven't refined it to probably the best standard yet. Like one person, for example, Gwen Thornton, great passer. Her passing percentage on my sheet is probably 10% higher because one game she played opposite
and passed
one ball and passed it perfectly.
Yeah.
So that ups her average heaps, but it still gets averaged out a little bit because the rest of the game she's passing at 50%-ish.
Yeah.
So it's just up to like 56 instead of probably being 50.
Yeah. But that will happen like that's a regular occurrence with some stats. Like some middles will have one passing stat.
Like it is possible to do, I could potentially do as well, just like per passing attempt.
Yeah.
But then it's also good to see that the impact per game.
I think per game.
I think
we've gone with per game because that makes the most sense for us. But let's get into it. Start with the Pirates. So they're currently ranked 4th on the men's ladder.
Side.
Yeah.
And 4th on the women's.
True.
But we're starting with the men's because a player. This is one of those teams that their best players didn't play every round.
Yeah. Their roster was wildly different every week.
Their commander-in-chief, Ben Bell, as the setter, hasn't played that many games, but he's averaged 16 serves, so they've been very effective through
that
position
rotation.
1 and that rotation, which is usually a rotation where teams lack a little bit.
Especially on the receiving side of that rotation. But if you're not even getting to that point, like you're okay with that.
And then this Pirates team puts a lot of usage through their sticks. Sam Pittarino, Brad Sting, and a player we'll look at, this guy, Mitch Tully, has had a very good season. He's only played 2 games though.
So it's a big question of whether we'll see him for the finals. We actually don't know why he hasn't played the other games.
Yeah.
But like, hopefully he comes back for the finals because he's a very, very good player and he's probably going to be a key player if they are hoping to get past the first round of semifinals.
He's averaging the most points per game for them. He's averaging 14.5 points plus 7.5 influence. So he's winning 7.5 more points than he's losing.
Influence, by the way, for those who don't know, is and most stat sheets will have this. Well, some stat sheets will have it. It's basically like your overall impact in a game.
Wins versus losses. Like
and
that error -1.
Yeah, and that takes into consideration all your stats.
Yeah.
Except for defensive stats because there are no defensive stats for the stats that we're currently using. But like 7.5 influence per game, that means you're adding 7 total points roughly.
He's second in the league.
Yeah, you got to take it in context, but that is very good.
Yeah, you can take it via position context because Libros can't have any positives.
No.
Unless they get a free ball kill, which we've seen
twice.
Darcy Cox get 1 or 2. Has he got
2?
2? He's got both probably in the league that
in the
we've
whole
seen.
league, yeah.
But there's nowhere on the stat sheet for him. It's definitely not on the stat sheet. But then they can just have negatives in passing errors.
Yeah.
So a Libro is probably just aiming to be as close to 0 as possible versus an outside opposite.
They're looking
middles are trying to get as high as possible.
Probably trying to look at like +5, I would say. But yeah, so plus 7.5, which is very, very good. So that's, you're averaging in the positives 7 to 8 points per game. Again, this is within context of all your stats. So it takes out of all the errors and all the positives and everything. So that's really good. As Alex said, like second highest in the whole league.
I mean, he's a big guy and probably people think of him as being very offensively focused. He has a 59% kill percentage. That's pretty good for an outside. Outsides, usually you probably expect that to drop a little bit because you're getting that usage out of system.
You're looking at 45% or above.
Yeah.
But like when you're hitting it almost 60, that's pretty unreal.
Yeah. And he's like, I didn't have efficiency down, but his errors are very low. He's actually, in his 2 games, he's averaging 2 errors on attack on 21 attacks, which is very low. And it's actually, he had 0 in one game and 4 in the other. But in that 0 game, he still had 9 kills or something. So it was, it was very, very strong.
So statistically, he's the best pass hitter.
Yeah.
And he's only played 2 games. Again, like realistically, if he played the other games, does he have as good a performance as he did in those other 2 games? Maybe, maybe not. So it's kind of begs the question of, are his stats inflated because he has such a low data set compared to everyone else? I would argue with watching him play and knowing his sort of player, I would say no. Yeah. Because he is a very, very big presence on the Pirates team.
His downside is his passing.
45% positive.
It's still very good.
It's still really good. But do you have Brad Stings on?
Brad Stings, I could find it.
I would like to make the comparison because those are the 2 pass
Bradley
hitters.
Sting is receiving at 45% positive as well. So
that's pretty good.
Brad Sting, though, has a lot higher of a perfect pass rate. 19% of that is perfect versus Mitch Tully, 9% of his it's actually 35% positive pass. Sorry.
Oh, you got the wrong one.
So that's dropped a little bit, but 9% of those are perfect. But he's still very good.
I think that's
parts.
fine.
It's still okay.
I think when you know you're running a heavy stick game for the Pirates,
It's okay for it to be pulled a little bit off the net.
especially when you've got such a high kill percentage to make up for that. I think that's okay. It's like looking at like Wilfredo Leon, who maybe doesn't pass as well as some of the other players on the Polish team, but he just has a ridiculous kill rate. It's kind of that same trade-off, I think.
Another player, the last player we'll look at from the Pirates, is counter to that. When they find their pass, they can really activate Steve McDonald.
Yeah.
Probably the best middle in the league. He's averaging 11.4 points a game plus 7.4 like win-loss. He's pretty darn good.
That's ridiculously good.
Averaging
for a middle.
2.2 blocks a game, 55% kill percentage is probably back to being a little low for a middle.
What's his total usage?
15.4 attacks a game.
That's really
So
high
it's
for a
high
middle.
for a middle,
Yeah.
but like he's still keeping relatively efficient. Probably just, he's doing well.
Considering that,
High-ish on, he's pretty good on errors too, like low, efficient.
so I imagine he'd be the best middle in the league statistically, just based off that.
Yeah.
Also, like 11.4 points a game. He has played every single game, which
Yeah,
means
he has
that,
played 5. This is really equaling out his variance.
Yeah.
He will be reliable in the finals if they can get him that ball a lot.
And that's Ben Bell's experience, probably knows exactly when to set him and when not to set him, because the last thing you want to do as a setter is as soon as you get one perfect pass, you go straight to your middle because that's really obvious. But the one thing I know, especially because I'm like from Queensland, I sort of know somewhat the cultural play style that they have is that they love to find middles in unideal situations as opposed to ideal situations. So I imagine Ben Bell's probably really good at finding him when the pass isn't quite on, and that might lead to why his total usage is a lot higher than most middles, but maybe he's not as effective as some other middles in the league.
Yeah.
But still, you're a middle and you're scoring almost 12 points every game. Well, I don't know if I've seen that many middles in any of the stat sheets scoring 10 or more.
He's also been very consistent as a server, not finding aces, but usually you don't expect just how it goes, middles to be those strong ace servers. But
fairly rare.
He's getting 12.8 serves a game, which means they're keeping him behind the baseline for long stretches.
Yeah, it either means that your serving pressure is high enough that you're putting the other team out of system, or you're in a really good row and you're blocking well, defending well, and you're staying on that server.
Yeah.
What's the average total serves, do you know, for the whole
league? Don't have down. It'll be, I can sort of around
so like
that 7 mark.
So that means per game.
It's brought down a little bit by the members of the league that are
Like not-
getting 3 serves because they're serving subs or they're not playing very often.
Yeah, they're not playing.
There's
every
like
round.
a few people that, Marcus Ferguson's here, but he was a libero for 3 rounds. So, of course, his average serves per game are going to drop.
Yeah.
Because average is going to get shaped by that. So you probably would want them to be above 6.
Let's go 7. I think 7.
Yeah.
7 in my head makes sense. If you're
Probably as soon as you start getting to a greenish good mark is that 8 or higher is sort of the top end of the league that are the regular players.
that's when you know when you go around to serve, you're holding that row a couple of times. If you think about it, there's 5, just over 5 sets, and in a 5-setter, you probably rotate 1.5 times.
Yeah.
Maybe more if it's a very, very tight match. So you're only going to serve once or twice.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting at 7, 8, 9, 10, you're holding your serve at least once or twice.
Yeah.
Through that whole game. If you're playing every set, and not all these players will play every set, not all these players will play every match.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Vipers, what have you got for us?
I want to give Darcy Tague his flowers as the opposite for this team. When they've really been rolling, James Kay did slot into that opposite role for a couple games, but I think they look very strong when it is Darcy in that spot.
Yeah.
In a team that doesn't run the ball through the right side.
Yeah,
he is finding ways to make a setter give him that ball.
Yeah, he's really. I saw it on the weekend because he had a lot of usage on the weekend and he was very good on the weekend. I feel like he sort of knew that when he had the opportunity to score, he kind of did score. So that way, I think Damo and Hunter felt like, all right, we're feeling good through the right side. Because it has been a bit of that question mark because we weren't sure at the start of the season where it was going to be Dylan or James or even yourself or Darcy. So it's kind of like now that they've got a little bit of maybe solidification on who that role is going to be moving into the semis, they felt a bit more comfortable and they knew they had to establish it on the weekend.
And him probably, I mean, he had a state league season with Yarra that was very good.
Yeah.
But he's played overseas in America, so it was probably refinding being with a different setup again for the AVL season. But he's found an average attack usage of 18 per game. Like round 1, he got 16. Round 4, he had 20. Round 6, he had 18. Like,
that's
so he's
really
always
good.
at that high margin.
Yeah.
Only on 42% kill efficiency, though, as opposite.
That's pretty low. I think opposites are looking to be around 50 to 60% from memory.
Yeah.
Like if you compare Thomas Heptonstall to that, who'd probably be the best opposite in the league, I think he's sitting around 60.
He's at 58.
Yeah, 60.
It's a hard. Oh yeah, it's a hard margin to compare yourself to, and he's doing that on 10 more usage as well, like 10 more attacks a game
per
he's
game,
holding a higher efficiency.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
It's very, very difficult. But like Darcy's done really well. He also hasn't played every game. He's only played the 2 out of 5.
Yeah. So the per game average divides by that. Like he's averaged by that. Like the 0 games he doesn't play don't affect his per game average, but he would maybe improve here and there if he keeps holding at 20 attacks a game. But probably the obviously best statistical player for this team is Paul Sanderson.
Yeah.
Sando. Has a lot of usage through him. 20 attacks a game, 42% kill efficiency.
15 points.
Kill percentage, sorry, not efficiency.
Yeah.
Getting 9.2 kills a game. He's winning 12 points a game because he's doing a lot of damage on his serve.
Yeah.
He's getting 1.2 aces a game.
Would that be the highest, if not second highest?
It is not actually. It's a bit down the list.
Oh.
Darcy Tague is actually above him. He's at 1.3.
Yeah, right.
Dil Lucchesi also on the Vipers at 1.4. But something I wanted to point out with some of these Vipers players, their error rate is sitting a bit higher than the other states.
Yeah.
So Dil, unfortunately, is at four errors a game. Darcy's at 2. That's back down to sort of being acceptable.
For those who don't know, the acceptable-ish, I say ish because some coaches have different views on it, but the international acceptable rate for ace versus error is 2 to 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, error to ace is 2 to 1. So 2 errors to 1 ace, that is sort of acceptable.
So Dil's probably at that, 4 errors, 1.4 aces, but Paul Sanderson's at 3.2 errors, 1.2 ace.
So 3 to 1.
So just,
Yeah.
that bit too low, but you're doing a lot of damage with that. So if you can have stretches, then
that's the other thing about
probably would let it slide.
Like the serve ratio that people got to keep in the back of their minds is like if that serve ratio, we want 2 to 1, but if you're sitting at 3 to 1, but you're also your total serves is way higher, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think especially with Darcy's case and probably with Sando's case as well, their total serves are probably sitting pretty high.
Darcy's at 9.3, Paul Sanderson's at 12 point. Darcy's at 12.3, and Paul Sanderson's at 10.4. So they're
both well and truly above 7.
Yeah.
Which means that if they're not acing or erroring, they are serving a lot.
And Paul Sanderson passing pretty well on the season.
That's what you would expect.
Yeah, he's had probably a bit of targeting. He's passing 14 balls a game, but passing positive at 57%.
Yeah, okay. 57 is, you compare that to Mitch Tully earlier, that's quite a stark difference. That means you're running your middles way more. It means you're not having to pass bad and then be relied upon to go and score as well.
But then going into finals, we had this conversation in our earlier episode this week, just wrapping up the season.
Yeah.
For finals, Vipers need to find a way to be more even on their attack.
On their distribution.
To really reintroduce their middles. This last weekend, Noah Van Gemst actually got used.
Yeah.
Good to see.
Very, very. Considering the caliber of middle.
I think he had 9 attacks and 7 kills.
Yeah.
Get him that more versus previous weeks he hasn't been used that often. And then their other outside, Scott Johnson, is at 63% kill percentage, but he's on half the attempts of Sando. So you've got to find a way to bump him up, which might bring his kill percentage down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it works better overall for the team to try and get that ball used more evenly.
At higher levels, so like your professional leagues in Poland and in Italy and even on the VNL stage and stuff, the stat sheets that I regularly look at is, again, going back to like a Wilfredo Leon example where, yes, he is probably the best attacker on that Polish team. The other two attackers actually see, so like the opposite Kurek and the other pass hitter, whether it's Tomasz Fornal or Alexander Slivka or Kamil Semenyuk, all three of them ridiculously good options when Wilfredo's not playing well. Wilfredo regularly has the lowest load, but the highest efficiency. So when you have those really good, outstanding players, it's funny that you see that statistic flip. So as their load comes down, their efficiency goes up because of just the nature of being able to rely on those other players and then go, right, I've used everyone else, so the block is sort of not really sure where I'm going to go, as opposed to just always feeding that one person. It makes it really easy for the middle to just go and choose, all right, we know they're setting Sando here, off we go.
Yeah.
That's something that I noticed. And then if you look at like a Japanese team or a French team where their distribution is so good that it is common to see that all three of their outsides are always sitting around that 10 to 15 and all their middles are sitting at like that 6 to 8 points per match.
Yeah.
When your distribution's really, really even like that, it makes it easy. But that does mean you have to have good passing. The setter always has to sort of know like, all right, who have I set here inadvertently way too much by accident? Or if we are out of system a lot, naturally those position 4 players are just going to get a ton of ball.
I mean, the Vipers are a team that they do a lot of work out of system and trying to be more positive in those out of system balls, but they should be in system a lot. They've got some great passes. Darcy Cox as well has passed 51% positive on the season, 19% perfect in his 3 games on 19 attempts, like 19 passes.
I dare say as well, from just looking at the statistics over the season, I think the Vipers would be the best serve reception team. I'm looking at a lot of these other statistics from other teams, and they're lower than what I would expect.
Yeah.
Vipers looking at high 40% every week on passing positive, whereas other teams are low 40s and even high 30s. In saying that though, like some of these other teams are far better out of system, notably WA, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, anything else on Vipers?
No, we'll shift to the next team up.
Probably the scariest team in the league, I think, at the moment.
I
actually think they are the scariest team. Purely from a
volleyball perspective, not as people.
Yeah, lovely guys. But I think from on paper, and we always say that like on paper because players actually have to go and perform. But I think the Adelaide Storm they've got the most depth, I would say.
Yeah.
And they've got the most, which this can be a positive and a minus, because when you've got a lot of depth, it also means that you don't have specified roles and you may have players that come in and out, which for some teams works really well. For other teams, it can disrupt momentum, disrupt flow, and it can cause miscommunication. But I've seen the Storm play pretty regularly, and I think they're good at it. I think they're good at having those players come in.
It's a hard team to pick a player to spotlight because they have so much depth and variability, and we've seen it through Finlay Bennett slotting in for Fathers and them going back and forth. Probably a good competition at their trainings, trying to see who's getting the next start.
It's probably a headache for their head coach to sort of sit there and go, what actually is our strongest rotation?
Yeah, they've been real good. And I'll joke that the first person, Harry Peacock, is probably one of the best setters in the league. It's him or Ben Bell probably have both been very effective.
2 volley roos.
Like
they've done it all.
Yeah. And this is a quirk of the system I've got, is Harry Peacock has the highest average kill percentage
as a setter
of 69%.
Of what, 4 balls?
Yeah, so it's because he in round 2 dumped 4 balls and killed 1. In round 3, he dumped 1, killed 1. In round 4, he dumped 2, killed 1. And in round 6, he dumped 2, killed 2. So,
yikes.
I mean, he's dumping pretty frequently though as a setter.
But like
it's a good way to have to respect him, because you're already watching his hands as seeing where he's going to distribute it to, because I find it very hard to read his decision making a little bit.
I'll tell you firsthand, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
And this is me a few years ago, and I wasn't as good as reading the game as I am now, but I would still struggle, I can tell you that. But I remember having to block. So I was the pass hitter that had to block the front hands or decide on the back A.
Yeah.
I reckon I got it wrong every time.
Or the Nathan Roberts pipe.
And
Just stay down.
No, I think Harry's the best player in the league, and I think when you look at each stat sheet on this team, he sort of shows it. With the distribution is very, very clean and even. And we sort of describe it as like a bit of a revolving door or a rotating roster where teams can just slot in lots of players and they offer something a little bit different. But some teams, it can be a real negative of like, all right, we're going to change our opposite now. It's like, oh, suddenly we look really different. Like suddenly there's a lot of miscommunication, or there might be a lot of more errors, or maybe some players aren't good at coming off the bench. But when you're looking at Regan Fathers or Finley Bennett, both those guys proved time and time again that they can both start and be quite good and come off from the bench and also be quite good.
Finley Bennett hitting at 61% kill percentage. Regan Fathers hitting at 51%. Regan having a higher attempts per game.
I think he's played a lot more.
Yeah. He's kept on court a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Finley Bennett really had an outstanding round 3. Was a real key game. He had 21 attacks at 67%. So that's what really pushed him up. But they've both been very strong blockers. They're both getting 1 block a game. And their middle, Charlie Disbury, has got 2 blocks a game. That's up there, and he's at 49% kill percentage.
Probably a bit low for a middle.
9 attempts a game. I think his averages are being brought down a little bit by round 1. He didn't get a whole lot of usage. I mean, his kill percentage was pretty fine that round.
Yeah.
It was at 40%. 40%. So that's bringing it down a little bit. But he has been pretty solid as a middle for the Storm.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely the standout. They're going to be, like I said, they're a scary team. Like between the 4 outsides, Nathan Roberts we haven't seen in like 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So when you've got him, in my mind, if you're looking at veteran and power and sustainability for your team, I think it's probably going to end up being Nathan Roberts and Will Mercer that get the start. And if one of them maybe not playing so well, probably Cooper Peacock comes in next.
Yeah.
And then Simon Coates, sort of your utility guy that we see sort of just go, all right, need you to play backcourt and pass really well, or need you to go and score some kills, or need you to go and block this player. Like that's sort of the role that I've seen him play a little bit.
I assume their libero for the finals will be back to Henry Ambachir,
who played really well on the weekend.
Yeah, he's been pretty solid. He's passed at 42%, but he's only played the 2 games, and the first game was pretty bad. So this weekend, round 6, he passed at 57% positive.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like,
it's ridiculous.
That's what you want out of a libero on 18 attempts. So he had, you can't ask for much more from a libero, but their backup and next in line, Ben Williamson, who's been the Storm libero for
2 out of 5 rounds?
Like longer though, like previous years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like Henry's pretty young. But Ben Williamson's also not, I mean, he's young too.
Yeah.
But like he's been their libero for
a
a little
longer.
while, and he's played 3 rounds as their libero, and he's passed at 54% on 13 attempts. Like, just both being very consistent in their libero position.
That's 13 attempts per match.
Yeah, per game.
Yeah, just in case it was like for the whole season. That's
per
good that
game.
teams aren't serving a libero, but like,
I'd be afraid. I'd be keeping it away from him as well.
I would be. Yeah. One thing I want to quickly note as well, which is really interesting and frustrating at the same time, is that I wish we had defensive stats because obviously Darcy's our teammate, so I'm a little bit biased, but he is not as good as serve reception as he is as defending. I would say he's probably one of the best defensive liberos in the men's league, whereas Ambachir is probably the best serve reception libero in the league. If not him, maybe Kieran Ivers. But Kieran Ivers haven't played every game, and he played pass hit for 1. So the stats
it
don't
shakes
really
up
line up a little bit
because there's so much variation in a format with only 10 players. That's what happens.
Also that. So like, in terms of highlighting liberos, all these liberos are phenomenal, but some liberos maybe don't look as good on paper because we don't have all the defensive stats. But I would love to. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say I think because
Yeah.
I've watched most of the men's matches. Missed probably like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I reckon Darcy would have the most digs.
It'll happen for the other SA game, the other SA, the women's team. Their libero is great
at D.
eye test and watching.
Yeah.
Defensive touches just
But
doesn't
statistically,
come up so much. But
doesn't look that great. Same with the WA libero on the women's side.
yeah.
Statistically, doesn't look that good. But you watch
she
her
looks
play.
still very good.
Oh, really?
Statistically, yeah, she was up
okay.
there. So,
But defensively, though, we
incredible.
see her keep WA still in the game so much longer than what they deserve to be without having her. But anyways, moving on to the Perth Steel men.
at the top again, finishing top of the ladder, well and truly in front again. I think there was no chance of anyone getting them from around round 4.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump straight into the most obvious choice is that it's Tom Heptonstall that we would think is the biggest influence on this team.
And probably the biggest player in the league.
Well and truly.
At the top of the ladder for almost every category.
Everything. Most wins and most positive plus minus. So he's very.
What's he sitting at?
He's at 11.4
positive in my
on
influence.
his influence.
So that's that.
He's winning 18.8 points a game.
That's silly.
He's played all 5 games. His kill percentage is at 58%, up there, top of the league. He's winning 15.8 points on attack per game. 27 attacks per game is second highest in the league to
It's probably a bit to Sando.
to Ethan Garrett was actually top. He only played 2 games for the Phoenix, but
got set a heap. Yeah.
I mean, he got set 29 balls in both of his games that he played.
Yeah.
But Tom Heptonstall is probably overused a little bit by them. But if you look at the damage he does on power plays and stuff, you can probably eyeball that, power play, this one's probably going to him. But he is still at 58% kill percentage.
And that's the other thing too. On the stat sheets, this is something that is debated about a little bit. I was in one coaches meeting early on and we were debating about this. Is like 4 statistics that you use during a power play, should they count as 2?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, they kind of should. I don't actually know what the end result of that was. Maybe the stats are a little bit inflated because they are. I actually don't know. But
I'll assume that
they're not.
I think they get attributed just as a bottom tab. I believe I heard someone mention that they just get added a power play point to the bottom.
It's a separate category. Yeah. That's how they make up the score.
So it doesn't go to a player. It probably could go to a player.
I dare say, I think power plays should be statted for players. It would be interesting data for coaches to make decisions on who should we call power play for. Like, all right, if I'm calling a power play, am I looking at Ryan Slater and going, you know who to set here? He probably knows who to set anyways, but like maybe Kyle Landers is actually a little bit better on power plays, and it's like, okay, they think we're setting Tom, but we're actually setting Kyle.
Yeah, so he can still be real effective.
And if you've got that data, maybe you can make that decision.
Little side note that's funny with this format, the match report system and stuff, volleyball's not meant to be played to 18.
No.
And to 18. So it's really funny seeing sets that are won in real life, 18-17. On a score sheet, it has to say 19-17 because you have to win by 2 in every system of volleyball.
Yeah.
Except for this one.
So
that extra point just gets thrown somewhere. It just goes to the team.
And we don't know where.
It's just its own separate little box, but it's just really funny
we
seeing
do know where.
19-17. I believe I heard it was just a separate box at the bottom.
Okay.
Tom Heptonstall's only negative is serve error rate is pretty darn high. 4.6 errors, 1.8 aces.
What's his total?
Serves, 14.6.
That's literally double.
Yeah.
So that's like what we were saying before about like, yes, his ratio isn't that good, but he's also serving.
I mean, it is 2 to 1. It's like serve error 2. Yeah, 4 points. It's just over 2 to 1 actually. But like.
So that's pretty good actually.
Yeah. It just catches your eye seeing 4 errors, and then I realized the 2 aces and went, actually, that's, all right, I'll take it back. Pretty solid. But it's the highest in the league in terms of errors, but it's also up there in terms of aces, 3rd. So he's pretty solid.
Yeah. They're well and truly solid. And then wrapping up for the Steel.
Oh, he has 1.2 blocks a game. We didn't cover his blocking.
I'm not going to lie, that seems low.
Yeah, probably should be higher, but I think it might be teams would around him.
I would avoid setting anywhere near him.
Yeah.
But also, like, that's your pass hitter slot. Like,
Yeah, they should be getting a lot of usage against that.
Yeah, but
their second in command for the steal, we'll quickly cover, is Kyle Landers, who's been very solid as their second in command. Specifically on attack, he has found a lot of usage in this team still, 22.2 attacks a game, 47% kill percentage.
That's above where you want to be as a pass hitter.
Yeah, when he's getting probably a lot of the struggle balls as well, he's not necessarily being, watching their games, relied upon to finish and win every point.
No, he's the guy you throw the ball to. And this is another stat that is not statted, but it's and one thing that Mark Lebedeau covers really well in his blog is like players like Kai, they, even though, 47% is really good, it actually should be a lot higher, because you probably find that a lot of the balls that he would give to the other team are balls where the WA are out of system and they go, right, give the ball high to Kai, and Kai finds a way to put the other team out of system, or recycles, then they run fast through Tom, or they run fast through the middle. So his stats are probably actually a little bit lower than what they should be, because he has to work so hard out of system to put the boys on his back and go, right, we're going to put them out of system, or I'm going to give us an advantage here.
Because winning on first attack doesn't really matter.
No.
It's winning the point and the rally win percentage that matters.
Yeah. So if you're out of system or you're at a disadvantage, find a way to give yourself back the advantage. And I think Kai, watching him play, because he's also small. Like, if you're comparing Kai Landers to Tom Heptonstall, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But Kai is very creative, very crafty, super dynamic, whereas Tom is just a bit of a hammer. And like that, honestly, that dynamic and that contrast in that team works really well.
Yeah. So they'll be looking for finals. They match up against the Pirates. They'll be looking to really...
Vipers.
Oh, Vipers. Sorry. Yeah, Vipers. Yeah. They'll be really looking to probably really get Heppers to find a couple more blocks against probably Sando as their matchup.
That's probably what they'll end up
be a bit craftier with Kai around a Damien Whitburn block.
Yeah.
Or just find it. They did lose the regular season match in a sort of slog.
Yeah. But like, so now that we've done the team recaps and how they play, well, we didn't really do how they play. We just did some key players, but like semi-final 1 is South Australia versus Queensland. And I think that is like looking at the way those two teams play, it's going to be stick battle. It's going to be the team that can do the best on a stick. Not that their middles are irrelevant, but I'm looking at the passing stats and I'm looking at the stick distribution, and I think it's going to be a pretty low passing game, because I think both those teams are going to serve the skin off the ball and maybe not be able to handle it super well. So they're probably going to have to be, all right, which stick, like if Mitch Tully comes back and he's lights out, that's going to keep Pirates in the game for a lot longer. But I think SA have got it. I think SA with their 3, because Sam Pinarino is very good. He can also be not so good. Whereas I feel like I don't know who their second opposite is. Yeah,
well, because they've lost that in Tyler Nix going overseas.
Right. And he probably would have been a really good, probably even
fastest
first
arm in the league, 100%. I'd back that. Have you seen his arm swing?
It's ridiculous. Yeah. That's why he's playing professionally overseas.
Yeah.
So then the other question is like, if Brad Sting is very similar to a Kyle Landers, Mitch Tully is probably very similar to a Tom Heptonstall, but Mitch Tully is probably not quite the same as Tom Heptonstall. So that contrast matchup doesn't play out the same as what it does in the WA team, because they're both pass hitters.
Yeah.
And you can probably serve at Mitch Tully and put more pressure on him. You can't serve at Tom Heptonstall.
You can try.
You won't succeed very well. So I think, I'm not sure if Queensland are as deep as the Adelaide team, but I think if they play well, they can do it.
Okay, Tom Heptonstall averages 0.8 receptions a game.
0.8. So he's obviously passed one ball.
He passed 0 balls in rounds 1, 2, and 3, passed 2 in round 4 and 2 in round 5. So I don't know. He stepped into the lineup maybe a couple of times.
I wonder who.
And none of them were positive.
Yeah. So that's why he's an opposite, I guess.
Yeah. Happens.
But I think Queensland can do it if they don't need to reach into their bench. I think if they need to reach into their bench, they might be a little bit like, not alarm bells are ringing, but like, oh, we're in a little bit of trouble here. Whereas I think if If SA have to reach into their bench because they've been put under pressure, they have more opportunity to reach into their bench and actually be better.
Yeah.
Like actually come out on top if they get the right player at the right time. But that's going to be the struggle for them is like, which player do you call upon if I imagine the coach will make the right decision because he's been doing it all season. But like, all right, do we need a Simon Coate or do we need a Cooper Peacock? Do I need a Finley Bennett to start or do I need a Regan Fathers to start? Like, it's going to be about those matchups. And it'll be a really interesting game to see. I think if Queensland can get the middles engaged, I think they will do better in the middle corridor of the game. But it's whether they can get the middles engaged is going to be because that SA team serves the ball incredibly hard.
They have some good servers.
They've got some unreal
They're all very
servers.
high on their rates.
Their stats
Finley Bennett
yeah.
gets some pretty good serves. He's averaging 2 aces. He's at basically 1-to-1. He's got 2 aces, 2.6 errors. Like
That's unreal.
on 13 serves a game, average like very solid.
I think like
good to see.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really interesting match. And the other match will obviously be really interesting too. So WA and Vipers, what do you think?
I'm thinking WA will turn up a little better than what they did last time. They will play a lot of opposite heavy ball, which is probably the opposite of the Vipers, who run very outside heavy ball.
Yeah.
Maybe if the Vipers can find their middles, they've started using Noah. I'll give them benefit of the doubt that they finally did it by the last round.
Yeah.
Noah Van Gemst has been very effective through the middle. They'll need to keep that up, and their other middle, who I'd be unsure. Actually, I'll be unsure who their 2 starting middles are for the finals.
We think it's going to be a combination of Noah, Kanwar Singh, and probably Dylan Lucchesi or Nicholas Boston.
Yeah.
We're not sure like about injuries or role, like because now that you get 12, we're not really sure who they're going to take. My assumption would be the 2 starting middles should probably be Kanwar and Noah. Noah blocked really, really well on the weekend, and I'd be curious to know if if you're trying to block Thomas Heptonstall, I think you're pairing Sando and Noah together.
And I think that's why we have seen a lot of Dil Lucchesi in the middle for the Vipers.
Maybe for a blocking.
Is because he's a good blocker.
Yeah.
And he's been getting lots of blocks for them. 1.4 blocks a game is pretty
good.
decent. And he's been their sort of go-to most games.
He's played every game.
He's played every game, but he was probably initially perceived as that utility player, can do it all in a 10-man roster.
Yeah.
And then he was just the starter.
Yeah.
So
he earned that role and he's just been really, really good in the middle. But I think this one's going to be about because these 2 teams distribution-wise, they're not our favourites because they're not teams that distribute evenly, but like that just is their play style compared to the other 2 teams we just covered. I think it's literally going to be, can Vipers slow down? They're not going to be able to stop Thomas Heptonstall.
Yeah.
That is a fact. But can they slow him down? Maybe, maybe not.
And put a little bit more weight and pressure on
Kai and on
Dan Piggott.
Dan Piggott, yeah. So if Sando and Scott, whoever matches up against Tom Heptonstall, if they can slow him down while still being relatively effective, Vipers will win. If they can't slow him down and WA are allowed to distribute however they like and rely upon Tom in those moments, I think WA will take it. Which I think is a fair analysis. And it's like when you've got like Thomas Heptonstall is the best player in the league statistically, and just you have to take one look at that team and watch the first set and go, oh, okay, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, that's the one. Like you got to, similar to how we play against Sanderson in our like state league, we sort of go, all right, we're not going to be able to stop him. He's just not a player you stop, but he's a player you slow down.
Yeah, you make feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Try their shots that aren't their favourites.
Yeah.
Put something in their way and rely on other players to play around them.
Yeah.
Darcy Cox will pick up 20 balls, I guarantee it. He'll do a lot of work, just make sure that you stick through points and can return something.
And the more times he can dig a Kyle Landers and a Tom Heptonstall to get that frustration of like, oh, I can't get a clean kill here, the better the Vipers will look. And the same thing for the Perth Steel when they're going against Sando and Scott. The least amount of clean kills those guys can make, the more frustration builds up, the more the distribution probably goes a little bit everywhere, and maybe they try their middles and they're not successful. Like that's where WA will capitalize. Or it's just about the pressure you apply on those two teams and how it'll be
really interesting to see those men's semi-finals. What teams really sling?
Yeah.
So before we jump into the women's side of the comp, we want to thank a sponsor of the show, a great supporter we have, Andor Financial. Some of you know Michael Cirillo, a great friend of ours, has gone out on his own in mortgage broking. So if you are looking for any mortgage broking financial advice, he is a great assistance. He's committed to supporting and sponsoring Net Talk in what we're doing. So if you're liking what we're doing, he's liking what we're doing, gel them together, see what's going, have a little chit chat with him. Because Mike's got lots of experience in the finance industry. He's got 10 years in financial planning and mortgage broking, and is super passionate about people taking control of their financial future. So if you or someone you know is in need of a home loan or would like to review your current lending, reach out to Mike and Andor Financial. We'll have everything listed below in the description and available everywhere to have a little look at.
Yeah, you can find more information down below, and you can also book an appointment down below. All right, we're back. So now for the women. We will start with, it's a bit of a closer match between the top 4 teams in terms of competition points, but we'll start with the Pirates again, sitting 4th. Again, I think this is purely because their roster has changed quite a bit, similar to the men's. There's a lot of players that rotate in and out of the squad, whether they're unavailable, injured. I'm not too certain. But yeah, so their best and most influential player is probably Scarlett Rudder.
Yeah, through the middle, they're probably one of the better sides at activating their middles, the Pirates.
Probably
they're
second best. I think WA are probably the best at that.
Get it on both sides on terms of attack and block, but Scarlett Rudder's averaging 2.6 blocks a game. So she's been very good on that side. 44% kill percentage, little low, but she's getting 15 attempts a game. And she is serving really well. She's getting 2 aces to 1 error.
Yeah.
On 12 serves a game. So they're sticking in that rotation, and she's also just the most positive player on their team, a plus 5.2.
That's that influence stat we were talking about
earlier.
earlier.
Of your win versus loss, your points for versus your errors. Very, very solid, winning 11.2 points a game. Probably next up for them is Emma Burton, being their opposite, has been very good also. Dead even on her serve, ace versus error, 1.67 to 1.67. Total attacks, she's getting a lot of this usage. Her and Alicia Stevens, they're outsides. Well, actually, Emma Burton's their opposite. Alicia Stevens are outside. Emma Burton's getting 24 attacks a game. Alicia Stevens is getting 25. So they're running a lot of stick ball there, but their percentages are not probably at the level you would like them to be finding kills. Emma Burton at 37%.
Yeah.
It's just that touch low.
I think just watching the Pirates women throughout the season, they've just struggled to find connections, whether it's the attacking connection or the setting. I'm not too sure, but they've struggled to kill the ball from multiple areas on the court. I think maybe it's because they're a younger team than what they're maybe used to being, but Scarlett Rudder doing really well. I think when Pirates can find the middle, and I was just looking at the stats there, their passing statistics aren't the best.
Yeah.
Bit of a trend on the women's side though, compared to the men's side. The passing statistics as a whole are much lower. But anyways, that's just another story. But when Pirates can use the middle, they look really, really good. But regularly they can't use the middle. So I think that's maybe one thing that's maybe holding them back. And
they will need to find when they play the steal.
Yeah. I think, we can talk about the steal when we get to them, but that'll be a really, really tough matchup for them. Thinking about it point for point, I think, the Pirate will need to pass, or if not pass, they'll need to be able to play really out of system at the highest level that they can to be able to compete with the Perth Steel for the semi-final this year.
And yeah, we'll move on next up to the team that finished third was the Adelaide Storm.
Yeah.
Got that wrong on the Instagram. I said they'd finish second.
Close enough.
No big deal. Second versus third doesn't matter.
It's the same either way.
And the first player I'm going to talk about is just because we don't have the defensive stats. It's Chloe Jarvis, their libero. If you watch the Adelaide Storm play, the points go for so long because their defensive efforts are the best in the league.
I feel like we spoke about this either earlier this episode or last episode.
Every episode, probably.
Or like how many more total attacks. Anyone who plays the Adelaide Storm just have so many more attacks because the rallies go for so long.
I'm also surprised by how much service is going through Chloe Jarvis. I would be steering away from her, but she's passing 26 balls a game at 39% positive, 13% perfect. Like,
that's really good.
Pretty good margins to be aiming for. And as a libero, there's not a whole lot to do to influence the game. But if you are playing defense well and you're serve receiving well, you're putting your team in a good spot to use your experienced middles. Beth Carey, has been very solid. Or this is one of those teams that is also a little player heavy to Rebecca Reeve.
Yeah.
31 attacks a game
that's silly.
Third in the league.
That's silly high.
It's very, very high, but she's killing at 37%. A little low, but she's also passing really well. She's getting 21 passes, serve receptions a game at 49% positive.
That's unreal.
Rebecca Reeve might be one of the best at influencing the game, being an outside and really being involved in so many aspects.
I wonder if that's why their libero Chloe gets so much more, because it's you're not really going to serve.
You're going to keep
Rebecca
that ball
Reeve,
away.
You're probably going to serve, and they probably. Watching two of their games this year, I noticed that Chloe Jarvis and Rebecca Reeve, who's their third outside? I think they changed it a little bit.
Cameron Zaya has played a little bit of opposite, but she's also listed as an outside.
Yeah.
She's probably their next go-to because they rotate a few more people through that opposite spot. But
I think Chloe Jarvis and Rebecca, they really control the serve reception formation. They really... They sort of dictate where servers can and can't serve regularly, which is, I really like that in liberos that can sort of position your passing unit in a favorable position rather than just letting servers serve where they want.
For this Storm team, they need to probably, going into the finals against the Vipers, find ways to finish more points, find more kills on their attack.
Yeah.
A lot of their attackers their kill percentage is probably sitting a little low, except for their middles, who are probably still a little low for being middles. Beth Carey sitting at 36% and Vicky Wright sitting at 55 per game. They are getting usage. Beth Carey hitting 17 balls a game is very high for a middle.
That's unreal for a middle.
And I mean, she's getting 1.4 blocks. Beth Carey is a great experienced player on this team, which has a bit of probably the most diverse experience range. It doesn't seem like they're super young, but they've got those players that have played AVL, played national team, done a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see that mingling on such a strong defensive team.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the biggest thing for that team is, as you said, they need to kill the ball a little bit faster. And they probably need to reduce the load a little bit on Beck Reeves and just sort of go, all right, we need our middles to kill the ball a little bit quicker here and be a little bit more efficient in, all right, let's end this point quickly before we have to rally and rally and rally and rally.
It was something I saw last time. I've said maybe in this episode as well, best game this season was the Vipers SA regular season game.
Yeah.
So to see them competing in a semi-final will be incredible.
Yeah.
It just felt like in that game as well, their defensive efforts were incredible. They were picking up every hard hit, but then they were returning tips or playing crafty, but they need to find ways to
kill the point.
Kill aggressively. I mean, be crafty when it's crafty, but it only works if it's used in moderation.
And I feel like if they don't kill the ball quickly and Vipers regain control of that ball, it'll be really tough.
But I am going to move on to the Vipers who finished second.
Yeah.
This is probably the hardest matchup for a stick hitter.
Yeah.
Katie Tipping
Yeah.
is averaging. I assume she'll be back for the semis. She has missed the last couple games.
Yep.
Yeah. But she is getting 3 blocks a game. She's got 3 blocks in every game she's played. Blocks is one of those high variance categories that you kind of think would, like, it's okay if you get 3 blocks and then you get 1 block.
Yeah.
And then you get
but if she's getting 3 blocks
she's getting
a game,
3 blocks a game, so she's putting herself in the right position,
Yeah.
matching up with the outsides. But she's also, on the defensive side, amazing blocker.
Yeah.
Attacking side, pretty amazing attacker too. She's the highest used attacker, averaging 35.3 attacks a game.
Oh my Lord.
Highest in the league by a little bit.
That's probably far too much.
And 46% kill percentage, which I would say is pretty fine for that usage. Like,
Considering you're getting that much usage.
you're winning 15 points on your attack a game.
Yeah.
You're winning 20 points total a game because she's serving 2 aces as well, getting those 3 blocks.
Well, if you're comparing that to the men's, like she's outscoring Tom Heptonstall per game, which is unreal to think about.
She has the highest in the league plus minus points win versus points lost of plus 12.6, which is 3 higher than next up and 5 higher than third. So she's winning 5 more points than the next person that's in the finals. When it's a couple players from the next team we'll talk about. But she's, I think, well and truly been very strong for this team, and she's got national team experience as it's slotted back into the Melbourne Vipers play style pretty quick.
Pretty well. And she's from Melbourne, so she sort of knows that play style pretty well. She would, again, like, it's funny how the men's and women's league, both the top players are 2 opposites, which is fairly common, I guess. When you're looking at leagues, best players and best scorers and stuff is normally an opposite. That is some truly ridiculous statistics. I would argue it's probably far too high to have 35 attacks per game. Yeah. That is so much low.
You're getting a third of the game is just you.
Yeah, you're just getting
You'd get a pretty hefty highlight reel out of any of those games.
She certainly will.
And a pretty hefty highlight reel for their outside, Carly Hines. Just from behind the baseline, you could make a movie.
You could.
She's averaging 4.5 aces a game,
That's
which is
ridiculous.
Absurd. 3.5 errors. So she's got more aces than errors, and she's serving a lot of them.
Yeah. What's the total serves at?
Total serves attempts of 16.75.
Oh my
which
God.
Is
that's absurd.
You're letting her stay behind the baseline for
far too long.
A whole set.
Yeah.
She could be behind the baseline for an entire set.
I wonder how much that's inflated by that Queensland match though, because she had so many aces and she served for more than half of those sets. Like almost every set she was serving for almost half, I feel like. But while you go and hunt for that.
She had in round 1, is that the round you're talking about? Against Queensland Pirates? Yeah. She served 32 times in that game.
Ridiculous.
But if you look at her averages, it is definitely being inflated by that. Actually a lot. But then she is still around that 12, 14 mark.
So still well and truly above 7.
Well and truly above. I probably should have, this is why I'll refine that and remove some outliers, but also leave that in. She served 32 balls.
In one game. That's even for a regular match of volleyball, like best of 5, 25, 25, 25, 50, like that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that is,
her 10 aces in that game. So she also served it.
Ridiculous.
33% ace rate.
That's ridiculous. So Carly Hines and Katie Tipping, they will be a force to be reckoned with. And then Rochelle Sisson is probably the best libero in the league.
That's why this semi is a libero off. Chloe Jarvis versus Roshi.
It's probably going to be a libero off. But I think SA are a little bit outmatched by Vipers because Vipers probably have better stick players. But it's going to be you probably don't want to be feeding every single ball through Katie. You probably want to be, again, we go back to it all the time. You want to be sharing the offense. It's not about sharing. It's about load management. Yeah. It's about like
keeping your players efficient.
Do we really want Katie to be? Do we really want to set her 35 times in the semi-match? Like we probably, I think you want to be balancing nicely between Carly and Katie, and you probably want to be using Gwen enough that she's engaged, but again, not over relying on her when you don't need to.
And Roshi as a libero is passing pretty darn well at 51%. She's second in terms of players, which is unbelievable. Like of players at volume, there is a middle higher than her, but that's a lower volume.
There's a middle that's passing.
I'll drop that in the next. It's in the next team.
The next one. Yeah.
But Roshi's at 51% on 17.6 passes, serve receives a game.
And I think
she's at 50, 68, 64. Like
silly.
It's crazy to hit 68% on serve reception.
I did say it when we played Canberra because I was commentating on that match. I noticed that the Canberra Heat team were serving Roshi all the time, and I was kind of like, I just don't understand why you would ever do that. But maybe I don't know something, but I'm pretty sure that Canberra Heat team lost, so
it didn't work.
Maybe I do know something. But
and next up, top again of the ladder, the Steel, doing something over there that's incredible, and we can jump into their libero, Danae Walters, passing positive at 59% on 22 attempts.
Ridiculous.
It's like, that's crazy as a libero to be at that rate.
Yeah, and again, we don't have defensive stats, but we wish we did because I would love to see who is the better defensive libero out of her and Rochelle. I actually don't know because I see Rochelle get a silly amount of digs, but I also see
Danae Walters do it too. It's
especially because she plays in 6.
Yeah.
And she's really good in 6.
Yeah.
So that is just something that would be an interesting stat to have a look at. But doing the old eye test, I think Rochelle would be a little bit better just because of the way that the Vipers structure their block to make sure every team is hitting at Roshi. Whereas I think it's a bit harder to do that if your libero's in 6. But in saying that, I've seen Danae chase down some ridiculous balls.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm completely wrong there. But definitely the 2 best libs in the league for sure.
And then a big perk of this Perth Steel team is their middles. So I joked about her being the second best passer in the league in terms of positive passing percent. It's actually not the middle you're probably thinking. It's Tessa Brown. Because I think Perth Steel run a little bit of variation in who's in their passing lineup.
I've watched her pass regularly.
Yeah, so in round 1, she did pass 9 balls and then 2, 1, 1, 1. So she was in the passing lineup a lot in round 1 and then stepped in here and there, I guess, for one pass a game. But she's always in there. But she's passing at 57% positive.
That's silly. I will say, and I'll try and find the clip and put it in the visual. But if you're audio listening, try and visualize this. But you know when the middle is in position 2, whatever rotation that is, I think that's officially rotation 3, where the setter's in front court, position 3. I actually think they pull her back and pass in that rotation regularly. So they have 4 passes, or they push up their other opposite.
In that first round where she actually had some passing volume, she was only passing at 36%, which is fine. But like,
if it's a pinch passing situation, that's
if you need a change up, it's worth it. But as a middle, she's getting 2.2 blocks a game.
Yikes.
High. She's getting 18.6 attacks a game. She's killing at 41%. She is serving 1-to-1, 0.8 aces, 0.8 errors. But then maybe the middle you did think.
Elise Hislop.
Yeah.
Who I lied about. She did not get 11 blocks in one match. She only got 6. But 6 blocks is still ridiculous.
And it means she is averaging 4 blocks a game.
Which would have to be the highest.
Yeah, it is the highest, well and truly.
By quite a long way.
Yeah. Well and truly, Chloe Walker from Canberra Heat is at 3.3, and Annie Tang's at 3.3 as well from New South Wales Phoenix. But Alicia Hislop, it's not due to outliers.
She regularly gets 3+ blocks every match.
2, 5, 6, 2. Like,
ridiculous.
You can't expect much more. They're finding her 12 times on attack, getting 47% kill percentage. She's serving a lot, not really finding aces, but not what you need. She's getting 15 serves, so she's keeping them in that lineup. Must be playing defense, and they've probably got a strong block because
Well, that's when Tessa Brown comes in front court. So it's like
So
you've got
either
rid of
middle,
one really good middle, and the next one's
and you
coming
get the
on.
other.
Like,
So
yeah.
And she's at plus 7.2 points errors versus
Like influence.
influence.
That's ridiculous.
Which is very good. It's third in the league. So she's a very low error rate, high efficiency player.
But that's
which
the
is
thing.
great to see. Like Alicia Slop's third in the league. Tessa Brown is fourth.
That's terrifying that both your middles are that influential.
Leah Clayton, their outside, is like seventh, like a bit down the list. Like they're just up there and being positive players.
I think the Perth Steel women, if we start talking about team identities in the semi-final matchups, so Steel will play Queensland. I think the Perth Steel throughout this entire season has been the team that has the greatest distribution, but also the greatest middle activation. They don't pass amazingly well.
Yeah.
But my God, do they activate the middles? And I think it's because of how well they block and defend. Like, yeah, they score a lot of blocks per match, but I also think they get a lot of soft blocks, which is another thing that is not statted. And I think it should be statted because the amount of times I've watched them get a soft block and then it rolls into a really high, easy position to just get a nice, easy dig and they run fast through the middle. Like that's almost their bread and butter. And I think because they're going to play Queensland.
Yeah.
I think Queensland are going to struggle against. They can do it. There's no team here can't go out and do it. But it's more, I think the Steel, they've built a team culture of really, really good distribution and finding creative solutions out of any situation. Just through like the way they block, the way they defend, the way they serve, the way that their middles just are always present, always a threat. You cannot serve this team off the court. But also in saying that, they can't like take the Pirates easy. Like Pirates also are winning culture. They know how to win. They know how to go and get it done when they need to. Yeah, a bit of a different team, a bit of a newer team with some younger players. But I think all they've got to do is stay engaged in the middle of the court and be a little bit better than the Steel out of system, which is going to be really tough. But yeah, and then who do you serve? I mean, the serve reception battle, I actually think Pirates win, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. What do you think?
I think it's going to be really tough to call on that side. I think Steel still find their middles enough on those off passes.
Yeah,
and they still have the talent at the stick that it won't really influence because when they get that ball over, they have a monstrous block.
Yeah.
That is, it's got to be daunting to face those hands being up in front of you, not knowing what's open.
And knowing how fast those middles move, it's not really going to be about how fast you can set the ball. It's going to be about
just
how
decisions.
Well, and how much can the Pirates keep their middles present enough to at least hold Tessa Brown and Elise Hislop at bay for a split second, because otherwise I don't think you're fooling either of them with how good their blocking numbers are. Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a match.
A hell of a weekend.
It really is. The other one, Storm versus Vipers, I think this is going to be the closer of the two semifinals. I think this is going to be about, can the Vipers distribute and not over-rely on Carly Hines and Katie Tipping? If they do, and if the Storm, again, going back to like when teams have that one or two really, really good players, you don't stop them. You just got to slow them down. And I think if Storm can slow down Katie and Carly, I think they'll probably come out on top.
Yeah.
It's insane that it's going to be really hard to stop both those players.
Yeah. They'll be doing a lot of video rewatch of their regular season matchup, I think.
Yeah.
Both teams will be improved from then, even though it was only a couple of weeks ago. You now know what you're facing.
Yeah.
Although these teams have looked pretty similar in their structure for the last couple of years. So you kind of know what to expect. A couple of new players here and there that lift the quality, but their game plans are very similar.
Yeah, I think Storm are just going to be hoping to side out as quickly as possible on certain servers as well, especially Carly Hines. But they did it earlier in the season, so they definitely can do it again. This one's going to be interesting. I would like to see how because we saw Kylie Hines come out and play opposite on the weekend because she wasn't having a great time on the left side. So if she doesn't have a great time on the left side and they're only using Katie, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah. It's in the format though of being in power plays. If you can power play on side out, win, go to cut Eliza Hines' serve, and she gets the next two as aces, then you get 6 points like that.
Yeah. Which is highly likely. We've seen that.
So Storm, I think we'll see really buckle down during power play points and just really try and absorb a ball on serve receive and just get out of system and try and find something in those points rather than allowing those points to get away from you real quick.
No, I agree. And then I think going back to what I was saying before as well, like if Rochelle and the defensive team of Vipers can keep the ball off the ground, because we mentioned earlier that Storm don't kill the ball quick enough. They probably need to kill it. Storm are going to have a harder time against Vipers. So they probably need to find ways to kill the ball really quick because in saying that, though, it might work in their advantage where if they keep the rallies going and Katie Tipping's low just goes up and up and up and up, it's probably going to run out of steam at some point. So it kind of I can see it happening both ways, but obviously it helps if you kill the ball quick straight away.
With it now being best of 5, do you think we will see those power plays get used first, second, third set, get the game over and done with? Because a lot of teams, especially on the women's side, have been holding them for that first set.
We see... Yeah, I've noticed a real shift later in the season, or probably from like round 2 onwards, that the first 2 sets of pretty much every game, no one's calling power plays.
Yeah.
Everyone's waiting to see how the game shakes up until the 3rd set, and then you see it called.
But now that you can win 3-0, I think I would imagine that there'll be a couple more power plays called earlier.
It depends what position I'm in. If I was a coach, like if I was ahead in the first 2 sets and the other team didn't call a power play, I wouldn't call it.
Yeah.
If I can win a set without using a power play, I'm going to hold it in the back pocket, even if it's 3rd set. If I can win that 3rd set and I've won, it's like 1-1 or something, and I can win that set without a power play, and it depends.
So we might see some power plays still unused at the end of a game if a team can find a way to win without one. So
well, it's very situational. Like if you don't have to use a power play, you still win. You don't get any bonus points for holding it. You may as well use it, yes, but like don't add any more pressure to your team if you don't need to call it. Because we have seen some players on both men and women's side, if a coach calls it and they're serving, that adds pressure to them putting that serve in. It's good. It's good comment. I don't know what we'll
lots
see.
to watch this weekend.
Yeah,
big action-packed game slots. If you would like to see the end of season last round recap, watch our episode earlier this week with where and when to watch the games. They're on SBS On Demand as well.
All of them are.
All of them are. So thanks for tuning into this likely longer episode, maybe split up potentially because it is slightly longer, but it's in depth because you really need to focus on players' stats and where they're finding their points and how teams are finding wins.
Yeah. And we hope this has been informative. It is very long. What are we sitting at now? Like an hour and a half, I think. But yeah, let us know what you think of this extra long format episode.
Tune into our socials this weekend when finals are going on. We'll be chit-chatting, getting stuff out there.
Yeah. We'll do some graphics this is on Friday, so never mind that comment.
You'll have already seen it.
You'll have already seen it. And then after this, MAVSL is done. We'll do it. We'll do a season recap video next week. And then we'll move on to the next best thing, which is probably a pro league. It will be a pro league.
Yeah.
Probably should wrap it up.
Yep. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you after the weekend.